Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is ManyNinjas speaking. Welcome to the next edition of Retro Ninja Gaming, where this time the title we're going to be tackling is the classic Robocop title for the NES. Why is Robocop blue, you might be asking? Because if he wears his native silverish color, you wouldn't be able to see him on the background. A gray Robocop would blend into the background, as opposed to the many more shades of blue that were available. Stepping back to the rules of the game, you have 6 stages based off the events of the first movie you need to get through, and unless you happen to be really good at bonus stages, which I am not, you only have 3 lives or continues to get through them. Let's begin. This particular title was made by Ocean Entertainment, which I believe was doing it off a license they got from Data East, which is probably why you'll notice on a bunch of the different Robocop games, you'll see multiple titles or multiple producing companies as they go on. First stage up, this is right after Robocop had pretty much been brought online after being taken offline in his Murphy form. So let's begin. Oddly enough, in the first bit of this game, you don't actually get to use his Auto 9 right away, which means you have an incredibly powerful punch, although it can't save you from really late hitboxes, to go through a bunch of the game's first foes. You get to meet a bunch of standby thugs they happen to have around, these pig guys which just really want to jump kick you for some reason, and my most hated enemy in terms of the regular enemies, dogs. I have no idea why. I can't recall any instance in the original movie where your canine companions were so vicious. But apparently for some reason they decided Robocop really is hated by dogs. Damned if I know why. Unfortunately, a minor setback here. Brief reminder for anyone playing this later. You can take care of motorcycles in one punch, but you can't say the same for the gunshot. Your Auto 9 doesn't have enough firepower in order to take care of it, although it's good for most other things. In terms of items here, you'll notice that I picked up a small bottle with the power logo on there. The blue ones tend to restore more health than the kind of orangey peach-like ones that you happen to come across more often than not. The blue ones only show up on occasion, including facing rematches of this armored guard, which, as you can kind of guess, if you're able to block one and just really time your punches well, it's not a contest at all. Not even 3 minutes in this video, we're already past the first stage. Second stage coming up, and this takes you to the events of the hostage situation over at City Hall. In case you didn't already have a lot of energy as is, from the fact that anytime you have left over will automatically go into your power bar. You can pick up a free power bar or power drink early on. And you're introduced to some foes that'll be hanging around on your rafters pretty much for a few odd stages. They don't actually show up a lot, to be honest. As for how the flamethrower and the mercenary enemy work, as long as you're able to get off the requisite 2 or 3 shots before they can actually fire off at you more than once, you can actually get away completely unscathed. Unfortunately, what you just saw there was a bit of an oddity with the hitbox kind of being left over from one of the previous attacks, which managed to tag me even though everything else should have missed. Also, speaking of general oddities, if you happen to take off that right shield-carrying thug before he can really get too far along, his first and only grenade toss will actually end up bouncing off to nothing, or occasionally you, but it will bounce off harmlessly rather than exploding and giving you any damage. This first room, as you see, had nothing to do with anything, except for a free machine gun thing, which you can use for later. And the rest of the room will proceed as normal, where you basically just scroll off to the left in order to start going up the first set of stairs to the stage. Of course, you want to take a moment in order to get the little battery there for a little extra time. Time is always helpful, especially when you have to deal with stairs, which are suspect at best with your collision. Here in this first room, directly on the second floor, you're rewarded if you happen to remember enough from the first movie. You got a wall you can break through, which will bring you a little closer to your goal, rather than having to go through the hallway, which is the normal path, which also has another armored guard at the end, which occupies a little more time and would actually risk you with extra damage. You would end up in this room anyway, which is the proper hidden way, or proper area where you're supposed to break through the wall. And now you're with the hostage situation. You might feel like you want to try to take a couple of pot shots here and there, but realistically, you just need to wait out the disposed of mayor. I believe that's the person with the gun at the moment. Take 3 shots, which basically means 3 passes here. He'll let go of the current mayor, and then you could just slug it out. Why slug it out instead of taking various shots? The problem, if the disposed of mayor happens to jump randomly up, you can accidentally hit the current mayor, which will cost you more time as a penalty for shooting the wrong person. For the training mode, which is basically going to pop up at least one more time, the goal of this is to try to get at least 30 targets shot throughout the kind of little pattern here for this bonus game. And if you manage to get 30 or more, because you can actually get more than that somehow, I've never managed to do it myself, you actually get an extra life that you can use in order to basically save you at the last minute. And how the extra life works is, effectively, whenever you go down, the game will actually repower you with a full time and power bar right there on the spot, just where you went down, and you can take another crack right away. Unfortunately, you can't exactly piggyback and get more than one of them. You're only allowed just the one. So even if you get the perfect the first time for the training mode, and then end up getting another perfect for the second one, you will only get the points for it for the second time around. You won't get anything else, which is kind of unfortunate. Alright, getting back to the main game itself, we move on to stage 3, which would be the drug raid at this point in the realm itself. And we get to meet Clarence Boddicker first time around. As Robocop, I should really say. For this particular stage, you're kind of looking both directly in front as well as above you for potential enemies, because enemies that are above you, like that one, will tend to shoot downward. Even though on the main level, they don't show the fact they have any guns at all. They just try to slug you or stab you with a knife, which is kind of weird, really. In this case, the way this stage can go can either leave you with a lot of time, but kind of issues later if you have a little trouble with certain bosses, or you could go a little out of the way, which is what we're going to do on this particular run, to grab an extra item that will actually help you a lot later, especially with the final boss confrontation. As you probably saw just on the edge of the screen when I was picking up the first health item, there was an extra gun item there, being the infamous Cobra gun. This is the earliest stage you can pick it up there, and at least in the North American version off the top of my head, it's one of 3 you can pick up overall. The reason I mentioned the difference in location, in I believe in the Japanese port of this game, I think you can have only a limit of 3 shots for the Cobra gun, which each pick up giving 2, but in the North American version, you can get a total of 6 shots, so if you manage to pick up all versions of the Cobra gun throughout the game, you will actually have 6 different shots to go with, which can eat up basically anything that it can go through really quickly, say maybe the last boss. This particular part of the stage, aside from keeping an eye on what's going above you, is not really threatening at all. All the thugs are still on their default health levels, which means they'll basically go down in either one punch or one shot of the Auto 9. And it's just a matter of making sure that you're safe and sound as you're going up and down the stairs. While you can punch or fire a gun on the stairs, it's a little inconvenient to say the least. And it also makes trying to traverse the thing when you're dealing with the magenta-themed or purple thugs that like to drop-kick you a little more difficult, just because it's harder to aim and move at the same time. They give those guys really generous hitboxes with the back of those kicks. Anywho, we managed to get back down the stairs, and if you want to go with the Cobra gun like what I'm going to do here, you need to go down these extra set of steps. Right now, you are actually fists only at the moment. You can't actually draw out your gun. Not that you need to at this moment, just because everyone is generally a one-punch kill at this point. You have an extra power icon if you need to, which realistically you'll want to save it afterwards in case things go badly, because going for the Cobra gun leads you to a rematch right away with this guy. As you can kind of guess, I've had a little practice punching him. Fortunately, he also drops an advanced version of the health item there, the blue version, which gives you more health back. And you start traversing your way back to the entrance to this room, back up the stairs, and back onto the normal path of the stage. That's what I mean about the issues with the stairs there. Proof of concept. Even though I was nowhere near that knife, I got stabbed anyway. Go figure. Anywho, at this point you go down this set of escalators, or why am I saying escalators? This set of elevators now. You'll want to take an extra little stop here. Try to line it up. Unfortunately, aligning things on the elevator is really hard, but I don't think they count any time against you when you're on the elevator. Pick up this extra battery because under normal circumstances, you probably need the extra time there in order to refill some extra health because this boss battle is going to be a bit more on the difficult side if you play it normally. Get rid of one more riot guard. Not really riot guard at that point. Just someone with a riot shield. I don't know what the heck they're called, really. And we meet the first matchup with Boddicker. Boddicker himself will only toss down grenades every now and then, but the real boss are these guys. Normally you're trying to contend with them running back and forth the whole time, but this is embarrassing to say, I only realized this very recently. The door is a safe spot from these enemies because the grenades they toss, they can either toss it straight across or straight down. They can't throw it at an angle, and their balcony doesn't extend all the way to the doorway. You can realistically just kill them with the auto 9 too, but the difference between an auto 9 set of kills and using the machine gun ammo, which you're going to get refilled of anyway throughout the course of the game, is probably one extra hit that you can save. Anyway, back here, we're up to the next stage. We're in OCP headquarters, which looks nothing like what it did in the movie, of course. They need to add something extra here. It's some kind of robotics lab. And now you're facing off more Magenta Grunts and these spider-like things. Unfortunately, they take quite a few hits. Starting off, they start off with 5 hits, I believe. With one that will take numerous more and actually move a little faster than normal. There we go. And while they're annoying and they take extra time to get through, on the bright side, that's an example of bounce, by the way. Yeah, as I was saying, on the bright side, those spider droids of sorts also tend to drop extra ammo for your machine gun, and occasional batteries and power-ups, at least on this stage. The main issue with this particular stage are all the obstacles that are going to go around here. Those ceiling guns, it implies that there's supposed to be a second one that pops up, but I've never actually seen it. But it actually does a lot of damage if they manage to get you there for more than a second. You have these tiny missiles that shoot from the ceiling here in this particular room. And just as you're trying to advance forward, you have this giant electricity turret that's pretty much just trying to shock you from a distance. You need to go to a 45-degree angle and basically just wail on it with the Auto 9 for a while. Takes a bit of time, but you get through peacefully as long as you don't try to stand underneath it like a madman. Pick up an extra health and proceed to the 3rd level. Once again, you're going to have some more generic grunts. There'll be this one guy. 1 second, he's about to show up. Yeah. I have no idea how to dodge him. That's basically a guaranteed hit. You can't duck underneath the shot. Standing straight, you'll take the shot. It's really irritating. Speaking of irritating, this flamethrower turret that they just have in there, which nothing the equivalent showed up in the movie. Thankfully, this first one, since it will appear later again in the title, damn that guy, the flamethrower turrets thankfully go off well enough with the Auto 9, and you'll have an easy enough time, ouch, that hurt. Yeah, they have an easy enough time dispatching those things with Auto 9 as long as you keep a certain amount of distance. Or one shot of Cobra Gun can also kill it, but you don't want to waste those things. Stage 4 boss is ED-209, which is easier than the turret. Why? Is when it's firing at you, you can shoot it with your Auto 9 normally. Don't even have to reach upward. And aside from this repetitive gun pattern, since it won't actually damage you from walking into you, and a terrible gun swing, that's all the ED-209 can do. As long as you make sure you're standing in the right spots, it can't hurt you. Although, speaking of hurt, the extra gunfire it had there, If you walked into it, that would actually damage you, by the way. Something important to note that actually screwed up a run earlier. Anyway, it's return of the training mode. Once again, there's a way to actually, so I've heard at least, to actually bait out certain parts. In the center parts, that will be basically the 3 line up in the middle. If you shoot them really fast, those things tend to spawn a bit faster, or at least that's to my understanding how that works. But once again, as I mentioned earlier, I've never been able to get that thing to properly work myself. It's generally good to have a good understanding of the stages because I am terrible at this part and I can never get an extra life to save me. Also, yeah, you have to hit it pretty close to dead center on the targets or else it doesn't count as a shot, by the way. At this point of the film, Robocop is amid traction after the fight with ED-209, which didn't go nearly as well as it did in this game. And now he's being hunted down by Clarence and his cronies. In terms of health, depending on how you are with the previous stages, you might actually be seriously hurting by this point. So it's a good thing this particular stage is actually pretty generous with power-ups. Especially since at this point, we haven't reached them yet, but your generic thugs, you know, the brown ones? Yeah, those guys, they take a lot more shots now. So they can start hurting you now a lot more, or they have a better chance of getting to you now. Especially the ones on the second level. As opposed to the original one-shot, you now need at least 2 to 3 depending on the situation. And this stage also has one extra little difference that'll pop up shortly enough. As I am seriously hurting on this point of the stage because I'm not exactly doing a good job punching these damn dogs out of the way. But on this particular set of stage, they're going to introduce one extra form of the brown general thugs here that does something that doesn't occur anywhere else in the game. Yeah, that one actually just threw a knife at me. That's the only place in this game where I've ever seen it. Speaking of something that doesn't really show up until this point of the game, as I go for this one, you see this guy in the blue coat. What's important about him? You don't want to shoot him off stage, because he drops a Cobra gun. That's Cobra gun number 2 for the game. Really thankful they give you a lot of health items in this particular area. As especially if you're kind of... this is not honestly my best run for this stage, but this is what I'm doing for the recording here. This could have really gone better here. Thankfully, the thugs still go down to 1 punch at this point. The helicopter pilot here has gotten a bit of an improved sequence. On top of just dropping the general bombs, he'll actually take another pass at you, and on the way back, he'll be shooting a machine gun. Now we face off with the second last boss of the game, Clarence Boddicker. Why did I just use that Cobra gun? It's a call out to the movie where Lewis takes the Cobra gun that was pretty much dropped by Boddicker and uses that to blow up the person who is controlling the crane. If you use it in this game on the crane, it stops the crane for the rest of the fight, making Boddicker here an absolute joke. You might want to think, why don't I save it for the last boss? Because if you use it here, you basically just have Boddicker for cannon fodder, as opposed to not only trying to shoot Boddicker, but also trying to drop steel girders at the same time, which that will probably be what hurts you in that stage more than anything. And for this last stage, you need as much health as you can get, just as kind of an insurance policy. The real reason people die on this last stage, more often than not, at least I've seen, it's not because of health issues though, it's because time runs out. You start off on this cane barrier, which pushes you all the way back to the left if you give it the chance there. You've got barrels, which really can only be taken care of by destroying them by punches. And of course, you're also having to dodge helicopter fire here at the same time, where the reason you see me purposely waiting in order to kill him is that way I was able to scroll him far enough to the right where you won't have another one spawn. If you do it on the very first screen, another one will spawn basically right away and cause you more problems. Speaking of shortcuts for this section, as long as you're kind of waiting there, just wait a moment on the treadmill here, just like that, and you'll be able to continue walking right underneath the jump kicking enemies without a problem. Thankfully, you can just kind of keep walking there. The treadmill effect will actually extend a bit longer than it really should, and then you can go back to moving at a normal pace. Just shoot behind you every now and then, just get rid of those people, and face up against the riot thug that'll show up in 1 second. Unfortunately, you walk too far back, which is proof of concept. Another one will spawn right away. And for this room, unfortunately, I didn't manage to pull it off on this particular run because I accidentally punched the guard when I shouldn't have. But a proof of concept I've done a bunch of times during earlier test runs. If you keep at least 3 enemies on screen, even if you'll take a cheap hit on the way over, you can actually keep that armored guard that would show up from spawning whatsoever. As long as you walk and get it to the point where you can see the doorway, he won't actually spawn, so you can actually just take care of anyone else on screen at that point to no problems. You won't have to worry about him, and that'll save you a bit more time. At this point now, we have more of the spider enemies back in OCP proper. Keep walking forward at a certain point, you'll auto-scroll those enemies off the screen. I'm running fairly low on time, so I just purposely use a Cobra shot in order to get through. Although, you can probably take care of it a nanosecond before I did, otherwise you get shot. You can actually make it so he doesn't shoot you at all. And here's your last Cobra Gun pickup for the game. Make sure to get it, just because you need this in order to finish on time. The remainder of the things on this stage are primarily to slow you down. All these spider robots here will be the ones that take basically as much shots as possible. You'll have 1 extra sentry gun above here that will slow you down. You want to spawn it out of the way so you can walk through during the timing bits. And between that door and you is 1 last armored thug before the boss. Unfortunately, as you probably noticed, this particular match, or this particular round, I've received no health items and no batteries. They actually don't drop any of those in this particular stage. So that's why you really want to make sure you have as much time as possible. You can sacrifice health as much as you want, and just use it to get through faster, as long as you have enough time in order to make the shots count. The ED-209 here is basically the same as the one in round 4, only it has more health this time, and a red color. As long as you keep firing away, you gotta be fine. At this point in the game, this is literally the last boss, so don't bother trying to save any of your extra ammo for your machine gun or your Cobra gun. Just shoot it all at once, making sure, of course, you're at the right angle to hit it. For the machine gun, you actually have to be... Well, machine gun and the Cobra gun, you actually have to be directly in front and putting on a 45-degree angle to make the shots count, because if you do it too far out, your bullets will completely miss it somehow. Your actual Auto 9 is a lot more generous with the hitbox. And there we go, ED-209 Final is now complete at literally the buzzer. No, seriously, ladies and gentlemen, if that thing had blown up a few seconds afterwards, I would have actually lost by time over. That has actually occurred in one of my earlier runs. Anyway, as we enjoy this nice little minimalist cinematic of the actual ending of the game, or the ending of the original movie, with the non-ending here as the credits actually don't exist for the most part. You just see this, there'll be a blank time and then your score. Regarding this game, it's honestly the strongest of the 3 NES games for the overall series. Robocop 2 is well known to be rubbish, and Robocop 3 is only so-so, I'm going to be honest on that one. I honestly have to say I enjoyed this game overall, even from beforehand. I enjoy it more now that I actually know some of the damn tricks to get rid of certain more troublesome spots of the game. And we'll probably be talking more about some of the other games in this series. I can't promise exactly when you'll see completion videos of those ones. Might be a bit, but we'll definitely be talking about those games. Thank you all for watching, once again. I'm not sure exactly when, but you'll be seeing another Retro Ninja Gaming very shortly. Maybe some extra clippets from this game that I didn't get a chance to show on this run. Well, that's all for this game, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for watching. I'm including my salute to the Stage 3 bosses after a certain break here, which, as you can guess, I'm giving breathing room because it's not exactly work safe. Thanks for watching, take care.